Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Muazzam Sandhu, and you are watching and listening Revive FM 94.0. This is our show, Your Voice with Muazzam Sandhu. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very distinguished guest who joined us today. Unmesh Desai. He is the member of London Assembly, and he is the chair of Crime and Police Committee in London Assembly, which is a very, very important role. He is very vibrant and active member and leader of the community who plays a vital role during this pandemic, and most of the people is aware about his role. He's everywhere in all the meetings, all the activities. We can see him. Please welcome Unmesh Desai. Hello, Unmesh.
Hi. Good morning, Muazzam Bhai, and also good morning to all your listeners. It's a very snowy and wintry London. I don't know whether you are in warmer climates or in other parts of the country. And can I also say thank you very much for your very kind words in introducing me. I feel quite humbled.
No, that is
Anyway,
very
always.
true. Thank you so much. That is very true reflection of your work, and you deserve the acknowledgement and recognition of all of that.
And it's always
So,
great to be on your show.
oh, thank you so much, Unmesh. It is always great to have you in our
And
show. Actually,
I hope a time comes when I can actually do this face to face with you rather than virtual. I mean, all this.
exactly. We are looking forward for that.
I prefer to be out with people, meeting people and community groups face to face. All these Teams and Zooms. It's the way of the world now. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this snow is very exciting for the people. They are loving it. They are sharing the pictures with their family groups. I think during this pandemic and during this very difficult time of the lockdown in UK, the snow gives a little bit happiness on the faces of the people.
Indeed. Although it's very important to stress that we are still in lockdown, and
Exactly.
it is so important. If I could please make a plea to all your listeners that the virus is still with us. I've got to say this: there are so many people, over about 105,000 people who died since this virus came to this country. In January, I lost two very close friends.
Uh,
One in particular was a police officer from Redbridge in East
I
London.
see. I
He
see.
was a police officer at Bethnal Green, PC Suk Baines,
I see.
and he was born in East Ham, young, mid 40s, and it just shows the virus can affect anyone. His father and mother survived. He was in hospital for 4 or 5 weeks and sadly died on January the 26th. And he was fit. And another person was a political activist from Kennington, ex-airline pilot Victor Adegbui, origin from Nigeria,
Right.
and he contracted the virus. So it's very much there. Please follow the rules. But the good news is the vaccine, which I want to talk about, if I may, through you, is shows some light at the end of the tunnel, and it's our best hope of getting out of this crisis. But people think that, oh, the vaccines are there, everything is safe, so we can start relaxing. Please do not do that. The virus will take still there. Let's wait for warmer weather. Let's wait for the vaccination program to roll out. The government is reviewing, as I understand it, lockdown restrictions being relaxed at the end of this month. Until then, I think we all need to keep to keep patient. The vaccine itself, particularly in terms of our communities, I do want to make this point. There are a lot of rumors and myths and propaganda being spread
Exactly.
that is dangerous for your health. It contains animal products. It affects your fertility. It affects your DNA. And can I just say very clearly, in plain English, that is simply not true. It's rubbish, complete rubbish. My own mother, 85 years old, and her neighbor, who's 93 years old, they took the vaccine in the very first week of the introduction. My mother took it on the second day, back in December. There have been
Right.
no side effects at all. And these vaccines have been scientifically tested on tens of thousands of people. It's okay. It was a rushed exercise because of the danger of the virus. Normally, it takes time to work on the product, but the scientists were under enormous pressure with this new virus, and they've done a remarkable job for which I think they deserve all our congratulations. People in Germany, people in Oxford. I forget the name of the Turkish origin doctor who actually worked on the vaccine in Germany and Belgium. Other countries are also producing vaccines, and it is a game changer. But also, it does not guarantee complete protection, but it's a very, very important step forward in safeguarding people against the virus, and mitigating the effects. So if you are offered the vaccine, if you have any concerns, the room and are
Make
very
it,
dangerous people out there, particularly
make
some
your
very far
voice.
right wing
This is
conspiracy
better.
theorists who don't believe there's a virus. And I'll
Right.
just make one last point. I think the election of President Biden in America is very, very important because in ex-President Trump, forget all these other stuff, is Islamophobia, is foreign policy, announcements, his treat. I mean, I could go on and on, but the way he treated the virus so lightly, and we need, country like America to take the lead in vaccine production, in rolling out the vaccine, not just in our countries in the West, in developed countries, but we've got to think of the tens of millions of people in poorer countries, in the so-called third world, that they need the vaccine as much as we do. This is a global virus. It needs a global effort to fight it and defeat it.
Exactly. I'm with you, Unmesh. The issue which I have, the questions in relation to the vaccine. First of all, the government is still well behind from their targets. They said that they will cover up the four groups in priority by the mid of February. So far, they just crossed recently 15 million doses of the vaccine. And my second question is in relation to the police officer. You said the police officers, they are very key worker. They are not in that list. They are not in the priority list. They are visiting people's houses. They are involved stopping the crimes. They are responsible to maintain the peace in the society and community. They are responsible to enforce the law and uphold the rule of law in the country. However, they are highly key workers, and during this pandemic, their role is much appreciated. They need to make sure that the COVID guidance of the government, the NHS guidance, and the government's restrictions is properly applied. They issued the penalty charge notice to the people, but however, they are not in that list. And as you said, one of your friend in of Redbridge from Bethnal Green police station, he died, and I know a few police officers who also died as well. So why they are not in that? Since you are the chair of the Crime and Police Committee in London Assembly, so I want you to comment on that.
Okay, so there's two questions there. One is the rollout of the vaccine, and then specifically the case of police officers. Let me
Yes.
take the first question. So we
Yeah.
had Government Minister Nadeem Zahawi, who's the minister in charge of the vaccination program, in front of the London Assembly, virtually, of course, last week. It was very good.
Right.
And look, I don't want to play party politics here. I've got a lot of criticisms of the government, and the inevitable public inquiry will look at what, in my
Yeah.
opinion, has gone wrong, very, very wrong.
Yeah.
But on the
Exactly.
vaccination rollout program and on the development of the vaccine, I think the government actually does, we didn't acknowledge that it's doing everything it can to roll out the vaccine. As Council Leader Darren Rodwell, leader of Buck and Dagenham said, which is, the Council, I've got a lot of respect for the work they are doing around the virus and against it, that look, give us a vaccine, we will get it out. through community centers, through local pharmacies. If you don't get the vaccine out to people, like Buckingham Council, then obviously it won't get through to the people who need it. So obviously we need to roll out the vaccine as much as we can. And the good news is that Nadim Zahawi did say that there are millions of doses of the vaccine which will be going out. They've got a list going up to May, where in terms of getting the majority of the population vaccinated. There are different categories. And I just saw that today they've asked over 70s to register by to get a vaccine by February the 15th. And then they're moving to over 60s. In terms of police officers, 5 police staff in London have lost their lives to COVID. And I wrote on behalf of the police committee to Nadim Zahawi and the Mayor of London, asking for police officers to be given a priority. So, of course, understandably, the government is actually concentrating on over 80s, and then over 70s police officers are in category 7. Now, of course, look, I appreciate the other frontline workers as well, the fire service and so on. I think with police officers, they are in charge of implementing the coronavirus legislation. There have been absolutely distasteful, disgusting scenes where police officers have been spat at, attacked physically for going to illegal parties. Sadly, some have been in my constituency. And again, councils like Buck and Dagenham have actually been raiding illegal shisha bars and so on. These people are more interested in making money and profits and putting the lives of their customers and members of the public at risk.
Exactly.
So there is strong action, but it's supported by the police. So it's not a question that of asking for special treatment or anything like that. The fact is, the police officers are putting their lives literally on the front. They're on the front line, putting their lives in danger because
Indeed.
the
Yes.
nature of their work means that they're going to come into contact with members of the public who sadly, are not obeying the law or the coronavirus legislation. And that is why we have said that, look, can you please consider their case for priority seriously?
And also, due to the lack of sources, police officers are bound to travel in one vehicle. They are from different households. They share one vehicle, the car or a van. In one van, if they have to cover up
Mm.
an incident, there might be
Yeah.
more than 6, 7 police officers in one van or 5 police officers in a car from
Indeed.
different households. So
I
that
think
is
you described their particular work situation very well. It's occupation, a profession where inevitably they are in close contact with members of the public. They cannot afford to socially distance themselves from,
exactly.
so like we saw the demonstrations, the protests, the marches in last summer, when people get violent, or like the illegal parties that people are having. I don't know what it is wrong with people, in terms of organizing these raves and illegal parties and
Birthday parties
shisha bars
and
being opened up.
exactly.
And you get a few hundred people congregating in a very small place, which is the surest way to spread the virus and get it. And police officers have to go in there and implement the law. And they're
Yeah.
putting their
And
lives
they
in
have to
danger.
handcuff. They have to put the handcuff on any accused person if they want to arrest
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
If they
absolutely.
if they
I
keep
mean,
if they
with
keep
your legal
themselves
background, you are aware that of the way the police have to operate. They have to read their rights. If they arrest someone, they have to go to read the rights out to the suspect and so on. So it's a very difficult situation, and that's what the Metropolitan Police Federation have been campaigning, and I fully support their campaign. And at the London Assembly, Mayor Sadiq Khan himself mentioned the police very specifically as people needed to be considered to be given some sort of priority. I know the government is sympathetic, and I'm hoping that the program can be extended to all police forces as quickly as possible. I do know that the government has been announcement recently that large organizations, I think it's 50,000 plus employees, can be used to can be given the vaccine to give out to the employees and so on. So yes, there's a question of priorities, but it's a question also of deciding right now, who are putting their necks out on the front line to protect us, serve us, the public, and it's on that basis that I think the police should be considered as a matter of priority.
exactly. Unmesh, you very rightly mentioned before the uh, fake news and kind of the rumors. We call them like the conspiracy theories which actually misguide the people, to mislead the people in terms of follow the government guidance. Before, the people were not in believe that, oh, there is no coronavirus. It is just some kind of the policy, world policy, China made, a American made, or whatever, 5G. No, we have a vaccine, and then we also need to fight against this conspiracy of the vaccination is not good. As you rightly mentioned, people thinks that. I know personally many people, they still are in belief they are not going to take the vaccine, and I always convince them. I said, look, if there is something wrong with the vaccine, why the queen and the prince took the vaccine at first place, and why all the important people of the UK, they are taking the vaccines, why all the parents of the important peoples, they are going for the vaccine. So I think we all need to work together to convince the people and the community, and the people like you are the leader, you are the community member, you very strongly connected with large number of community, and I think your words will make a big difference. So I want you to make a plea again, uh, in telling the people that don't believe on any conspiracy theories.
And that is why programs like yours are so important. Messaging is so important, and I made this point at the London Assembly and to to other people, that using the right communication channels are so important. People from the community listen to programs like yours. Just putting a leaflet out through people's letterboxes doesn't mean anything. So let's look at BME, Black Asian minority ethnic communities, and particularly communities from South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh,
Yes,
and Southeast Asia. So the anti-vaccine people, and so a lot of them have got very dodgy right-wing connections, far right-wing connections, and they basically deny that there is any such thing as the coronavirus. They're actually targeting areas with large South Asian communities very specifically because of our religious beliefs. So there is this nonsense being put out that, oh, there are animal products, and obviously, in terms of pork and beef, there are religious sensitivities, and it is and so it's a deliberate, malicious strategy by this far right wing, in some cases far right wing connections, but other anti-vaccination people to target South Asian, Southeast Asian communities based on our religious beliefs. So people obviously get apprehensive. Can I make a plea in very as strongly as I can? Please do not believe this dangerous propaganda. If you care about your life, your family's lives, your community, people, then if you've got any concern, speak to your doctor. Right? There is no scientific evidence to support what the anti-vaccination people are saying. My mother has religious beliefs. She actually asked for the vaccine the minute it was announced. So the vaccination program was going to start in mid of December. She took a jab on the second day. She's had no side effects. It's completely painless, by the way. It's literally not even a second. It's just a simple prick. But this can be a lifesaver, so spread the word in the community. There are millions of people around the world in poor countries who are actually desperately waiting for this vaccine. We are in a position where we can get this vaccine. So do not lose the opportunity to protect yourself and your loved ones. I beg you, please do not listen to this propaganda, people. It does not affect your DNA, your body, your health, your fertility, and as I said, there are no animal products in it, and that is why East London Mosque is being used as a vaccination center. The Swaminarayan Hindu Temple, Sadiq Khan went there last week himself. Has been is now a major vaccination center in northwest London. The Imam of one of my local mosques in Barking Road, Masjid Ibrahim, has made a very good announcement about the vaccine, urging people, to take it. Sadiq Khan has done a message I believe in Punjabi. Dr. Onkar Sahota, chair of the GL Health Committee, has put a message out in Punjabi, mainly in terms of large South Asian communities in West London. My assembly colleague Navin Shah, who represents Brent and Harrow, he's put a message out in Gujarati. various assembly members. We are going to put out messages in various languages. And just yesterday, I did something with Bucking Dagenham Council, who are putting out a video message for the residents of Bucking Dagenham, appealing for people not to be taken in by the anti-vaccination people and to take the vaccine if offered one. And it's messaging like that. Local councils like Bucking Dagenham, spreading the word. People like my GL Assembly colleagues putting out messages in different languages that I believe we will defeat the poisonous, malicious propaganda of the anti-vaccination people.
This is very important message, and this is very strong voices you just mentioned and referred. I think all of these voices can play a vital role. And yes, all channels and all community programs, they are all also encouraging every single member of the community must consider this vaccine. This is the life saving, and this is the great effort of the scientists. And this is the only way forward. Otherwise, we will all have to go in a circle of the lockdowns.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
exactly, and we all of the UK residents, they have suffered a lot. The figure of the death are gone much higher than 100,000. That is
Well,
also, yeah,
sadly, look how the world has changed in 1 year, and that is why I appreciate life, appreciate every opportunity with your family, friends. No one at this time last January thought that this pandemic would would go around the world. It's affected the economy, people's livelihoods, and in March, when the government rather lately imposed the lockdown, one of my many criticisms of the government, the government scientists were saying that they hoped that, if there were 20,000 deaths, of course, one death is one too many. And they weren't wishing, sufferings on anyone. But there was a figure of 20,000 being put around that we could, there's somehow that would be acceptable, if there's a right word, if I may use it. As I say, one death is one too many. We have ended up with the worst death rate figures in the Western world. 105,000 people have died as a result of this virus.
exactly.
And
You are
questions are going
absolutely
to be asked, what went wrong in the initial stages? Certainly, we acted too late. As I said, the vaccine, and so the government does use some praise for the way they're rolling it out, but too little, too late has been the hallmarks of this government. Late lockdowns, ending lockdowns early, the eat for out for our scheme now, with hindsight, has shown been shown to be problematic. This is where you eat out and for £10 or something. And I think the
yeah.
biggest criticism of the government is what they didn't do about international travel. Back in April, many of us were saying, look, you've got to control international travel. It's not rocket science. Countries like Australia, New Zealand have had successful antivirus programs because they immediately implemented border checks. And so we had the ludicrous situation where people in this country were living under hardship as a result of lockdown, obeying the law, and yet people were coming from abroad without any checks at the airports. Finally, in January this year, the government's woken up. Now they're going to quarantine incoming travelers. They've got bans on many countries where the virus is a problem. But, this should have been done months ago.
Exactly. You just opened up a new question of mine, actually. I want to ask you, there are large number of people who are demanding the public inquiry about the mishandling of COVID-19, and also they believe that the figure of deaths due to the COVID-19 or in the death certificate where the COVID-19 is written, it is much higher than 100,000. And this group and this campaign is for to demand a public inquiry on the government all decisions which you mentioned, especially the in the beginning, the late lockdown, the late considerations, and also not properly handling our borders or airports. Because if you, what's point if you enforce the lockdown whole country and you left one big window open where all the viruses come into the country? That is airports. If you ignore the Heathrow airports or all of the international airports in UK, where all the viruses coming from the different world, to the UK, but the people of the UK are suffering due to the lockdown. So what there was really mishandling. So do you think that they have a point of the public inquiry, and what would be the possible outcome of that?
If ever there was a case for a public inquiry, then it's now. In terms of, it's not about scapegoating. It's terms about learning the lessons of what
Yes,
went wrong last year. I think everyone accepts that there were mistakes, and then it's about learning the lessons. And yes, I believe that there should be a public inquiry. I think there will be one. I think public are very very angry about the government's complete shambolic mishandling of this virus. Now, look, to be fair, and this is what the government says is defense. And no, they do have a point. It was a new virus, but yes, it was new. But the Italians were warning us in January. Look, this is coming your way. Get ready.
yes,
I mean, let me talk about the state of Kerala in India. Uh, the health minister in southern India, the health minister there asked her advisors in January, "Is this virus going to come here?" They said, "Yes, ma'am, because of travel from the Middle East in particular, and we got many people in China." They started making moves, going around different towns, villages, spreading the program, the message about social distancing, wearing masks. They started having checks at airports and so on. Uh, and the government basically had this theory of what is called herd immunity, that enough people get infected, and that way we get protection. And instead of locking down in February, they were allowing super spreader events. That's the word, where tens of thousands of people gather in one place, and inevitably they spread the virus. So, like the Cheltenham Racing Festival. Well, what need was there for the horse racing to go on when we knew this virus was so dangerous? Italy was screaming at the rest of Europe. Look, our hospitals are being overwhelmed. Spain, we were seeing the images on television. You had Liverpool playing the Spanish team, Atletico Madrid, and at that time the virus was rampant in Spain. Yet 3,000 Spanish fans. It's not their fault, but they were allowed to come to Liverpool, which has suffered badly, from the virus. The Easter vacations, people were going to skiing resorts in France, Italy, and bringing the virus back. Again, not their fault. Why do we have governments? We have governments who lead us in terms of, particularly in terms of a national crisis, or in the case of the coronavirus, international crisis, to give guidelines, to have laws, legislation. And there were people within the government we do know who did not want any type of lockdown because they wanted to prioritize the economy first. As has been said, you can revive the economy. You cannot resurrect the dead. You cannot bring dead people, give them life again. Yes, economic effects have been very, very hurtful, very harmful. But as I say, the measures have been taken, will be taken. There will be a recovery. We will rebuild. And there are some initiatives like, again, Bark and Dagenham Council. I've got to mention them. They signed plans for film studios in
yes,
Dagenham. And just last week, they announced their support for what is called a free port on the River Thames. And that sort of planning is going to happen now. So great initiative, the council planning for the future. Bucket Dagenham Council, a vision. The film studios in Dagenham will bring thousands of jobs. Will be the center of the film industry in the United Kingdom. Forward planning, visionary thinking by the council, and we can't wait to start planning for recovery. It's good because start planning now. But to come back to the health issue, right, and the question of lockdowns, so it was too late, in my opinion. It should have happened earlier in March, if not February. The issue of masks, people like Sadiq Khan and others were saying, look, the scientific evidence says that wearing mask helps. The government, again, only around May, June, then took a position on wearing of mask in public. Other countries were doing this weeks and months earlier. The international travel issue, confusing advice, and this tier system that's been turned out to have problems. Tier 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can be
and
in
five.
one village, which is say in tier 2, and a few streets away is you got a tier 3 with less restrictions. So that's nonsense. We need a national approach, in my opinion, certainly across Scotland, England, Wales. So the public inquiry will look at all these issues, what went wrong, and more importantly, what lessons can be learned. It's not about scapegoating. It's not about playing political games. It was a new virus. The government acted very slowly. There's been a question of too little, too late. They knew from Italy, Spain, this virus was going to come here. They should have started planning for it in December, January.
Yes, and also, Unmesh, you raised very well points, and you articulate all of the case very well in relation to the public inquiry, I believe. Uh, I want to refer one article. It was in Guardian newspaper a couple of weeks before, which was says that in the time of the Labour government, they had a trust for the whole health department, wherein they believe that if any time of the crisis or any pandemic comes, whether we are ready or no, and they applied that test in all the hospitals, in emergencies. They checked everything, whether we are well equipped, whether we are well prepared, and which are our deficiencies, which things need to improve, and how much funds or things. They actually prepared very well, and they compared with the conservative government. They haven't done anything like that.
Exactly. I mean, look, that's another example. I'm glad you brought this point up. PPE, personal protection equipment. NHS staff, and no amount of words can describe what a great job they've done. They were putting their lives on the literally at risk. They, many hospitals, they were making their own gowns, and again, and then the government ordered PPE from Turkey, which turned out to be the wrong sort of PPE. Right now, this is sort of planning that should have taken place in January, February. That you were putting the lives of NHS people at risk. I mean, look, it has been estimated that around half of the deaths that have happened in this country as a result of COVID or COVID related, could have been prevented.
Yes.
It's unacceptable. It's a scandal. The PPE situation that symbolizes everything. I think the government went into a mode of panic, and they had no planning strategy, no forward planning, and is simply irresponsible. And that's not what we expect from a government that has been elected by people to protect them at a time like this in particular. And that is why we need a public inquiry. What should have happened? It's not a question of saying with hindsight. People were saying it then. You know, have a lockdown now, stop international travel, or have international travel
Yes.
restrictions. I mean, the farcical thing of international travel, as recent as late last year. When the South African variant of the virus, the government banned flights from South Africa, but yet people could travel to Dubai, and from Dubai come to London. Could travel to
Yes,
Dubai from South
exactly.
Africa.
And
So these
no,
air
I
corridors, whatever they are called, is that sort of basic thinking. It's not rocket science, that, and especially we as an island, we should be able to better protect ourselves. I mean, let me give an example of good practices abroad. Istanbul, a city of 25 million people, and densely populated, many environmental issues. Over there, the local councils went around door to door, testing and testing people. And now, is that sort of approach that the government should have been looking at? How to roll out test and tracing, which was a disaster in the early days,
yeah,
the government again acted very slowly. But they should be using local councils, local organizations to test and trace. Look, I mean, uh, uh, I've got to again give credit to the NHS, in terms of the staff. I mean, I personally contracted COVID myself on the 1st of January. I tested positive. Thankfully, it was a very, very mild COVID, but I was in isolation for the required number of days, 10 days. I was in isolation for 12 days. And throughout those 12 days, the NHS were ringing me, or people, who were tasked with look at the welfare of people who were in isolating. I think I had at least 3 phone calls to check on how I was coping. But these are the staff. They need a framework within which to work, protect personal protection equipment, a strategy by the government, and that simply was not there in the first few months. And that is why I think the inquiry, will actually highlight a lot of these things. We've got to be better prepared, much, much better prepared for new variations of the virus, for new, pandemics. I mean, who would have thought of coronavirus a year ago? And again, this is where funding has been cut to scientific and research institutes. You cannot, and this is why the people who developed the vaccine deserve so much praise for doing this, for getting the vaccine out so quickly. Normally, it takes months and years to develop a vaccine. They've done it in a question of a few months. All respect to them, but you could have planned for the future, 5 years, 10 years from now. What are the possible, sort of epidemics that could arise? Scientific research is ongoing. It needs to be funded properly, and investment now will not only will save lives in the future, many, thousands of lives. There were many unnecessary deaths as a result of, during this pandemic. As I say, it has been estimated half the deaths could have been avoided. Those lives won't come back, but let us look at what lessons can be learned to prevent such mistakes being made again.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Unmesh. And also, I want to highlight the problem which I was reading yesterday. The bus drivers in London, especially because London is a very big city, and there are hundreds of thousand buses at the moment running around, and we have thousands of drivers who are complaining about the people are not listening. They are not face covering, especially the teenagers, and also the bus drivers. They think that the people are becoming more closer to them, more closer to them. They wanted to speak to driver, or they need to touch the oyster next to driver seat, and also in the bus the driver is there, and all the people are coming and going. So the government's recent statement says that 1 in 3 person have a coronavirus without symptoms. He may spread virus without knowing other people and without himself know that he has a virus.
Yep.
He's spreading it. So this is very dangerous. And
Absolutely.
two bus drivers also died. So I know that the Travel London Travel TFL is also in the control of the Mayor of London and the London Assembly. However, maybe that is not your committee, but you may have some comments on that.
Indeed.
How to how to deal with this issue?
Uh, Absolutely. And again, thank you for raising these points. Look, this is a problem with this virus, which is why it's so dangerous. You can have it and not have any symptoms. Any symptoms. In my
Yes,
case, let me talk from experience. I had no symptoms. The three main things that they say shows that you have the virus: continuous coughing, and so on, and
loss of
that you
smell
can't
or
smell,
anything
smell or taste.
or
I
taste.
had none of the symptoms. I was what you call asymptomatic, and even during my isolation and after, I'd no, nothing that would suggest that I had the virus. And you're right
I
about the figures. 1 in every 3 carry the virus without knowing about it, and and they're obviously, they don't follow the government advice on isolation and so on. They are in terms of social distancing, wearing mask, washing your hands, using sanitizers. They are in danger of spreading it to people who could contract it, and so my own case shows the danger of this virus. That is, you can have it without having the symptoms. Bus drivers, my sympathies with their situation. Most bus drivers in London are members of Unite, the union. And back in May, June, Unite raised this issue with the Mayor of London, with Transport for London, about protection for bus drivers, and restricting entry, and so on, closing of seats, sections behind the bus driver's cabin, um, and various other safety measures, which were implemented by Transport for London, and the Mayor of London himself was extremely concerned, and I know that people from his office were in regular discussions with Unite, with Transport for London. Office is the chair of the board, and many measures were taken to protect bus drivers. Sadly, too many bus drivers, I think, don't have the exact figures, but around 30 something have died over the last year. There is a well-known case of the woman, Belly Mujinga, at Victoria Station. She was spat at, and sadly she died of the virus. So again, I want to use this program to get the plea out to people. These people are putting their lives at risk. Bus drivers, TFL staff, people who run the tubes, are at the barriers. They are there to keep London moving. The economy needs them. The
Yes,
country moving. And please respect the rules. Have observe social distancing. It's not an inconvenience to wear a mask for a few minutes, or no matter how long your journey takes. That's not an excuse to take your mask off. I despair when I see people get on the bus with a mask and then not wear it properly. You should cover your nose and your mouth. And then they take it
exactly.
off to make phone calls. Well, a phone call can wait. You know, what is more important? Taking steps to avoid spreading the virus, especially in a bus, which is a confined sort of space. And it's just irresponsible, silly, and stupid of people to flout these regulations in crowded public places, in particular, like buses, tubes, and so on. So yeah, I mean, I commend TFL for taking all the steps. The Mayor of London, who's in charge of TFL. I commend the Unite the Union for highlighting the situation that their members faced, and I'm glad that many safety measures. I mean, TFL has spent a lot of money on sanitizing tube stations, escalators, and so on. I've seen it firsthand, and again, they deserve praise to make the system as safe as possible. But the best way to keep the buses, tubes safe, trains safe, is by the people who use those services, the
Exactly.
customers.
The people need to
Exactly.
be follow the guidance and
You
must
know,
wear the face
and
mask
what
for
is
their
what I
own
find
safety and the
really
other.
irritating is that you can take steps, but the person sitting to you doesn't wear a mask, don't think of you. And there have been occasions, I'm sad to say this, when people have been
Exactly.
assaulted, people have been beaten up for pointing out to someone, look, you're not wearing a mask, and they actually ended up being assaulted. You know,
Exactly, and the people are maybe going to into the arguments
yeah.
and
And
having social issues and
yeah.
fight. Yeah,
And this is
very much.
what can the
Yeah,
bus driver do? I mean, they got a hard enough job as it is, right? And they can make a announcement over the tannoy, over the PA system. But when people just take off the mask, or especially school children, there was this myth at one time that young people couldn't get the virus. Well, they do get it. I mean, a friend of mine, his 4-year-old daughter. 4 years old daughter. She has contracted the virus. Thankfully, it's mild, and they're recovering. Uh, and this is where parental education, schools can only do their best to tell school children. I know there's argument about schools reopening, and I believe that the government is thinking of reopening schools sometime in March, late March. But again, it's so important that school pupils, students take the precautions of going to school wearing a mask, observe social distancing, which sadly in many parts of London you just don't see with
yeah.
people, young school children. You
Nish,
know,
we left very short time. I don't want to miss one important point about the
sure.
crime issues. The crime are still at a very peak nowadays, especially the cyber crimes, online crimes, because people are staying at home. They are using internet quite a lot. Every single person of the society, they are using internet now, working from home, employees working from home, and also there's so many crimes is happening. People are targeting through the social media. Their fake IDs has been made, and also fake NHS email is in circulation, saying the people that this is a vaccination email and exactly ditto copy of the original email. And also, I want you to comment on the. I don't think so. The Red Bridge is under the London Assembly, but it is still in neighbour of the Newham and Barking and Dagenham. So there is a very sad and alarming incident happened. A 14-year girl was raped by a white young man a week before while she was exercising in the Goodmays Park, and she was dragged into the bushes, and that man raped her. So that is where the people can go during the lockdown. They only have one if they are living
Mm.
in a flat or any building houses. They have to come out to do the exercise in the park, and this is what happened.
You raised many important points there. and I'm really glad that you raised them, and please to answer the points that the issues that you raised. Firstly, in terms of vaccination, yes, there is a scam out there. Be careful. The vaccination is free. So anyone who rings you or sends an email offering a vaccination, ask you for for your personal details or bank cards, just put the phone down like my mother does, or
Yes.
simply ignore the email, right? Because sad, but we live in a world where people want to take advantage of such a horrendous situation where 105,000 people have died to make money quickly. And sadly, many people have fallen for such scams because they're desperate to have the vaccine. So please, can I get this message across very, very clearly? The vaccine, you'll be notified officially by the National Health Service when your turn comes. Speak to your GP if you have any concerns, and it is free. You do not have to give any details to anyone over the phone, your personal details, your bank details.
Yeah.
And fraud is a very sophisticated crime at the international level. And we raised this issue at the London Assembly Police Committee recently. It's actually a growing crime, well organized, very sophisticated, and uh, uh, again, this is where basic precautions are so important. Never revealing your password, never taking calls from numbers that you don't recognize, or any the minute you have any suspicion. I know that concern has been expressed about Action Fraud, which is the agency through which the police forces work,
Yes.
run by the City of London Police Force, but how effective it is and so on. I know that the Metropolitan Police are taking fraud and online fraud in particular very seriously. It's a growing crime. I don't have the exact figures, but it's over around the third of crimes. Your listeners can write in to me with their views, and we certainly raised our concerns with the Metropolitan Police about the effectiveness action fraud, and getting the message out, especially to smaller businesses, individuals in particular who don't have the necessary software program on their computer.
Yes.
The Mayor of
Security.
London does fund work to help small businesses to take to take precautions. And coming back to the attack in Goodman's Park, um, obviously despicable. I hope the perpetrator is caught. And I know that Jaz Zatwal, the leader of Redbridge Council, has put a lot of resources, and his cabinet member for crime and antisocial behavior, Council Khair Chowdhury, are putting a lot of resources into frontline enforcement services, clearly patrolling public spaces, the high streets, and so on. Is obviously very, very important. Councils like Buck and Dagenham, Redbridge, Newham, I know, and Tower Hamlets have their own enforcement officers working alongside the Metropolitan Police. It's a partnership. The police can't be everywhere. They are stretched. They've had £1 billion in London. The Metropolitan Police has £1 billion cut from his funding over the last 10 years. Sadiq Khan, in his recent budget proposals for 2021-22, is doing his best to protect frontline policing services. 1,300 extra officers have been recruited since he became mayor, but he has requested the government to give London 6,000 of the 20,000 officers the government has promised nationally. We need those officers, and I know that Jazz Atwal in Barking, in Redbridge, will be very concerned about this particular sexual assault. But the police on their own cannot, solve such crimes. They need information from the public. They need partnership working. It's a two-way thing. But partnership working with local councils, with local community groups, and but I condemn this despicable crime. I hope the perpetrator is arrested, and also I think it's important that a crime is a crime. The nationality or origin of the individual or skin color.
Exactly. Yes.
Is something that sometimes the press does stereotype, and they run scurrilous articles. And of course, we've got to talk about such issues. but in a sensitive manner, but without stereotyping communities or having those sort of press headlines that we've seen about some of the cases in the north of England. And
Unmesh,
uh,
Unmesh, sorry, I'm cutting you
and all
off.
I can say is that I hope the perpetrator in this particular incident is arrested as quick as possible. I know that Jazz and Redbridge, along with the council I represent in East London, are putting a lot of resources, into enforcement services. Bark and Dagenham during the corona visited 1,800 premises to make sure that that the shops and business are operating within the coronavirus legislation framework. 200 businesses have been fined. Is that sort of proactive approach by local authorities that I think is so important? I know in Newham, the Srisha Bar was closed down recently, and I know Redbridge again, Jazz and his team are doing some great work there, but they need the help of the public.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Unmesh. It is all great input from your side, and I think we need to spread the message across to
And
follow these things, especially avoiding to become the victim of any crime. Uh,
And can I just say, again commend you and your program? Is this sort of programs that we need to get out the message out about the virus, the vaccine to people? Because community people listen to your program. I know that from many of my friends who listen to your program. I live in East Ham myself. And also to your listeners, follow me on Twitter and Facebook if you want to do more about my work. I try to update my social media profile in terms of my work as regularly as I can. I do articles in the local newspapers, Barking, Dagenham Post, Newham Recorder, Eastern Advertiser. So again, that's how to keep in touch with me. Any issues about policing, crime, or anything affecting East London, I represent City of London, Tower Hamlets, Newham, Barking, Dagenham. Please do get in touch. And if it's not within my remit, I'll do my best to make sure that I can pass you to the appropriate person, authority, or agency.
Thank you very much, Unmesh. Really appreciate it. It
And
was great to have you.
thank you very much for inviting me. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you
And
so much.
to you and your listeners, please stay safe, be safe with your family. Take care. The virus is still out there, but the vaccine offers hope. So take the vaccine if you're offered one, and do not believe all the conspiracy theories about this vaccine.
Exactly. Yes. Do not believe all the conspiracy theories. Thank you so much, Unmesh.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our show. You was listening our distinguished guest, Unmesh Desai. All of the recommendations and advices from the London Assembly, from the government, from the NHS and health organizations. The people need to follow that. You can watch this program on our Facebook page, Revive FM, Revive FM 94.0 UK. And this will be re-telecasted as well. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive